But Mark, it's time to close off our NFC North preview with the Kings of the North from last week. King of the North. And we're going to talk about the Bears. As last year, very surprising year from the Bears. I know trading for Khalil Mack, I know you put them in the playoffs, but no one, I think, expected them to be 12-4. No one expected them to win the division. If anything, it was a wild card sneak in after they got Khalil Mack this year, but everything is looking roses for Chicago coming into this year. Before we dive into it, let's set everything up. So, free agency, much like the Vikings. Like, when you're at the top, there's not a bunch of moves that you're going to make. The big ones for the Bears are you bring Mike Davis in on a 2-year deal. He's going to be a part of Run DMC this year. Clinton Dix on a 1-year deal. Cordero Patterson on a 2-year deal, and then Buster Screen, a cornerback, on a 3-year deal as well. Draft, you didn't have a bunch of draft picks. Your first 2 big ones were David Montgomery in the 3rd, which I really liked, and then Riley Ridley, the wide receiver out of Georgia, in the 4th. This is a team offensively. When it came to yards per game, you guys were 21st in the NFL last year. Points per game, the Bears were top 10. They were 9th in 26 points per game.
The defense did a lot of it.
The defense was it. Yards per game, 3rd. The only 2 defenses above you, Buffalo and Baltimore, when it came to yards per game. But there was no one above the Bears in points per game. The only team that came close was Baltimore, who was 0.2 away from you. Bears gave up 17.7 points per game last year. So
and those takeaways, leading the league in takeaways.
The thing I want to ask you to start is with that defense. And the thing I want to kind of go off of is Vic Fangio's not here anymore.
Correct.
Vic Fangio is now in Denver. He's the head coach of the Denver Broncos. With this team, because really unless I'm missing someone, the biggest departures are Adrian Amos, who we talked about in the Packers segment, and then Vic Fangio, who is now a Denver Bronco head coach. Do you expect this defense to be exactly the same success-wise under Chuck Pagano, or could this defense take a minor step back this year?
Well, I think there will be a little bit of a step back because you're getting used to a new defensive coordinator, you're getting used to a new style. Chuck Pagano was a lot more aggressive than Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is a mastermind of defense, no doubt about it. But the one kind of gripe you can have with his defenses is, I'm going to send 3 guys, maybe I'll send 2. That's my pass rush.
You're not gonna be exotic with the blitzes. You're not gonna send overloaded packages.
You'll try and trick them, and that's the thing that Vic Fangio does better than most is
I'm sending 3. Who am I sending?
Exactly. Look, it looks like everybody's gonna blitz, but it's Vic Fangio, so there's only 3 at most that are probably gonna come at me.
And one of them's
just a question
Khalil
of
Mack.
who. Well, actually, that's the thing that people complain about is why is Khalil Mack dropping back into coverage so often?
Yeah.
Because that's Vic Fangio. That's what he does. It's all about disguising the blitz. And part of that is everyone expects Khalil Mack to show up, so you got to drop him
cover
back.
for him, yeah.
So anyways, you're going to get much more aggressive play calling on the defensive side of the football. What I think that leads to, probably less turnovers, partially just because historically you can't lead the league in turnovers one year and then lead the next year. It just doesn't really happen. But the other part of that is you've got less coverage. Yeah. So unless you are truly getting to them really quickly and forcing them to make a dumb decision, which is totally possible, you're just going to have trouble getting that same amount of numbers, and some of it's luck. Some of it is just the guy who had the ball go through his hand that tipped off of him, or it's not every once in a while, or it's not every day that you can make Aaron Rodgers make a dumb decision out there and throw an interception. He just doesn't really do it. He threw 3 last year. But I'm excited to see a Chuck Pagano defense here in Chicago because of the amount of weapons they have with, Akeem Hicks, with Goldman, with Khalil Mack, with Roquan Smith.
The entire linebackers, basically.
Yeah.
Floyd, Trevathan, Smith, and then Khalil.
To see them, which was so much pass rushing ability here, to see them get to occasionally be unleashed like that, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Well, and I know you bring up that, hey, with this defense, there might be less turnovers. But the thing that I think of is what's the two things that I always say are the most important things for a team: a good quarterback and a pass rush. And if you can even, like, two things, if you're going to be aggressive with this, that quarterback either needs to be, like, I know they can go down to basically, like, rhythm throws of, like, all right, you're going to start bringing the blitz. I'm just going to start doing slants where it's basically three-step drop throw, three-step
And that's
drop
what a lot
throw.
of teams were doing to Chicago last year.
But, like, the thing that I think about is if with the more aggressive blitzing from the Bears, you're giving then, A, less time for that quarterback to make a throw, and number B, if you're beating that quarterback up all game and he's taking hits, even if it's not a sack, even if it's I threw the ball, but I still got hit by Khalil Mack, being it legal, not a roughing the passer, like I still got hit while getting the ball off, I'm still getting hit while getting the ball off. My body is taking that toll throughout that game to where you're basically just beating up that quarterback.
Ask Aaron Rodgers. Ask Russell Wilson. Ask Sam Bradford. Ask Ryan Fitzpatrick. The quarterbacks that all got hurt by basically Khalil Mack and the Chicago Bears at the beginning of the season. I mean, the Bears had a streak of injuring quarterbacks for a while.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that it's like they were playing dirty. It was just simply that they were just hitting the quarterbacks so much at the beginning of the year, especially when some of these quarterbacks weren't used to being hit. You think Aaron Rodgers plays in the preseason? No, that's why he got hurt week 1, because they don't need to play him. They don't need to get him those reps up. And then you got guys like Sam Bradford who are just made of glass. But I look at the Chicago Bears defense. I'm not worried. The thing that I'm interested in with this team is going to be the offense. And the reason
I was just going to ask you about them.
The reason I bring that up is, I mean, they're still learning things, and Matt Nagy's offense was very new to this team, especially coming from John Fox, which was like, all right, you're going to run the ball. After that, you're going to run the ball. Then you're going to run the ball a third time.
And then we're going to punt.
And then we're going to punt and hope for the best on defense. It's going to be great. Maybe if you're lucky, we'll let you throw the ball 4 times.
But you guys have a big, I'm going to say big departure on offense, where wide receiver-wise, mainly the same guys are coming back. You got Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, Anthony Miller in year 2. Now you're adding in guys like Riley Ridley, who you drafted. But to me, the big question offensively is the running backs, where, yes, you still have Tariq Cohen, but you're adding Mike Davis, free agent from Seattle. You're adding David Montgomery, who you got in the 3rd round with your first pick in the NFL draft. Do you expect this kind of 3-headed running back system to take over for the loss of Jordan Howard, who is now in Philadelphia?
Well, the thing about Jordan Howard was with Matt Nagy, I love Jordan Howard. I wish he was still on the Bears, but
never really fit, though.
But we didn't use him.
Yeah.
And I still stand by, if Matt Nagy really wanted to get the most production out of Jordan Howard, he would have figured out how to do it. Part of the blame goes.
He didn't have a bad year. He almost had 1,000 yards.
Part of the blame goes on the offensive line that didn't really do a good job of run blocking last year, because what was drilled in them is, hey, we passed the ball, because that's what they did last year. But I don't think that we truly were using Jordan Howard as we should have, so I don't think there's much to miss in that case. Yes, he put up quite a bit of yards, but it's not like he put up yards that nobody else could get, because it was something that only he could do, because we weren't using him in the way that only he can be used. So when I look at Run DMC, I think we'll still be able to get things out, especially when I look at there's a big important part of this Run DMC that is missing. Or 2 important parts, really. One we all know about, Mitch Trubisky. He's going to run the ball himself. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt in the process. The other part, that was Cordero Patterson. That the whole reason why Cordero Patterson is here is for screen passes,
Maybe
really quick dump.
Maybe some jet sweeps.
Exactly. He's there to take 1 step forward and get the ball thrown his way. He is there for basically extended handoffs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there. What I'm most interested in as a Chicago Bears fan there was so many times where Bears fans did get frustrated with Matt Nagy because it was like, all right, we get it. You've got some fancy plays. Maybe let's not get cute right here. Maybe we just run up the gut. Maybe we don't need to do something weird. Yes, it's fun to see Sol get a touchdown. Great. Offensive lineman scoring touchdowns, great. Yeah, it's really nice to see Akeem Hicks out there on the offense. That's awesome. But maybe we just pound the ball up the middle.
I don't know. The thing I'm thinking of is, and I don't know if this is the right thing to say or not, but it's like, you knew that's what you're going to get, though, at Matt Nagy, though.
You knew you were going to get creative play calling. But when you're at the 1 yard line, maybe you just run it up the middle.
I mean, Pete Carroll showed us sometimes.
I was actually just going to say, let's ask Pete Carroll and Darryl Bevell.
Second reference to that Super Bowl on this podcast.
Right? Sometimes you just run the ball up the middle. And I think that Matt Nagy still needs to figure that out a little bit. So what I'm very interested to see is Mark Trestman had a good first year. And I'm not saying Matt Nagy is Mark Trestman in any way, shape, or form. But what I am saying is, are the trick, cute play calls going to get frustrating and everyone's going to have it figured out? Or are we going to get a little bit more simplified at times when the game plan calls for it?
Well,
and I worry with having guys like, now Tariq Cohen is basically the number one running back. Cordero Patterson, we got him, like I said, purely for his ability to, get the ball and then move forward. Plus also for a punt returner. I just worry of, like, are we going to try and be gimmicky the whole time, or will we eventually still be gimmicky, but gimmicky when appropriate?
Well, here's the thing I'm thinking of, and this is when it comes to the running back situation for the Bears is it going to be, and you don't have to answer this right away, but I want you to think about this question because this is what I'm kind of thinking about is it going to be a problem that you at least, and I'm not saying he has to be your number one guy, but you don't have a guy like Jordan Howard, because Jordan Howard is a guy 6 foot, 224. He was the guy last year where it's like, if we need to pound it up the middle, we got to give it to Jordan Howard.
If only, yeah.
This year you've got Tariq Cohen, who is 5'6", 181. Your draft pick in David Montgomery is 5'10", 222, and is a guy that in college only, yes, he had over 1,000 yards on the ground in college, but he was also a receiver for Iowa State, and how they run in college is very. I
imagine that's what we're going to
up
expect.
The gut.
Yeah, we're going to expect to throw the ball to Montgomery too.
Like David Montgomery's biggest traits and positives in his kind of profile were, he's a good receiver and he's got good hands, so he fits with what Matt Nagy wants to do. And then you got Mike Davis, 5'9", 217. Is it going to be a problem if these are the three guys you roll with, that the Bears don't have that one bruiser like a maybe Jordan Howard who he had last year? Like we looked at Detroit, how last year they had LeGarrette Blount to be that bruising running back to kind of, if they need that, and not have to put that into Davis, Cohen, or Montgomery's hands.
And I think that part of that is why you see the creative play calling and stuff like that. But, do you just sit there and say, all right, we're just going to hand the ball off to Akeem Hicks? Is that the answer to your question then? Or is
it's
it
a Chicago thing. Give it to the lineman.
Right? Or is it going to be, is the philosophy of, well, we're not going to put ourselves in that situation. We're going to score the ball sooner. We don't need to be at the 1 yard line. I think that those are interesting questions.
You're still going to have it, though, where it's 3rd and 1.
Of course.
And I know that
4th and 1, potential 4th and inches.
If we get 5 yards, we still got the first down. Like, I get that, but there's going to be situations where you're going to need it, and I don't know if the Bears have it right now.
Yeah, and I'm a little worried that that's something that's missing. But smart coaching, smart play calling will get you around that. And then of course we got to move over to the other thing, special teams.
I was going to bring it up.
It needs to exist at some point in time.
They need to make kicks.
And I mean, and that's the thing. People are going to get on that. People are going to get on the kicks. But it's not just the fact that Cody Parkey was a bad kicker. It's also the fact that they couldn't. There were multiple times where the special teams unit let the rest of the team down. Talk about the Miami Dolphins game when they really let them down. We talk about the same division, New England Patriots game. The Chicago Bears would have beat the New England Patriots if special teams did their job, and they didn't.
And you'll always hear like announcers and coaches and the analyst guys always say where it's like the special teams it comes down to like fundamentals and discipline. Like to have good special teams, you have to be very disciplined with what you're doing.
When it comes to the kickers, yes, I'm concerned about the kickers because I should be. The Bears have not been able to fill the kicker situation at all. But the kickers is one thing. What I'm really concerned about is, can our punt unit stop their returner from getting really big yardage? Can they not have penalties that are dumb? You know, that's the stuff that I want. I'm actually really glad that Tariq Cohen isn't going to be returning kicks that often anymore. He still will be returning punts supposedly, but there's a part of me that thinks that's going to get taken away from him, and it'll just be Cordero Patterson.
I would assume it'd be Cordero.
Right now, it's probably punts are probably still going to be a large portion of Tariq Cohen.
But if Tariq's going to be your number one running back, do you want your number one running back returning kicks and punts, or just punts?
He was last year, and he was the number one running back last year.
Technically, Jordan Howard was the number one, right?
No, not really.
Usage is a different thing, but like on the depth chart, I believe it'd be like Jordan Howard number one, Tariq Cohen number two, but it was very fluid. I think that's
debatable. But yeah, right now Tariq Cohen is supposedly still supposed to return punts. I really hope Cordero Patterson takes that from him, because that's why Cordero Patterson is there. He's like the 4th or 5th wide receiver on the depth chart. Let the man return punts. But the reason why is, yes, it's fun to watch Tariq Cohen run all over the place and be a joystick. But like, we all remember Devin Hester's great times. Let's also remember the bad times where he just ran side to side and got tackled. You know, it's wonderful to see Mitch run one side of the field, do a little spin, run to the complete opposite side of the field, and then get a touchdown. But the whole time we're all sitting there going, please stop, just throw the ball, just do something, throw it out of bounds. I don't care. And then, touchdown. Yeah, we're glad he did that. The Bears had moments like that where they got lucky last year, is really what it comes down to. And I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan. I loved every moment of last season, with one probably really big exception. I loved that season last year, but we all should admit the Bears got a little lucky. Should they? I think without a doubt, the Bears deserve their 12-4 record. They absolutely deserve that record. But there was a couple times where it's like, whew, that one's went our way.
Well, and I know there's games on that side of like, man, that one went our way. But like, I even look at their 3 of their losses, and with the Giants game, you'll have to remind me. The Giants game too, where Giants, Patriots, and Dolphins
was all special teams.
All special teams. You had the onside kick with the Giants. You had with the Dolphins. I still remember that huge. I can't remember if it was a punt or kick return. I think it was a kick return, but like that huge return to where it's like, holy shit, they let the Dolphins back into the game. And then how you mentioned there was the play in the Patriots game. Those don't happen. This Bears team could have been 15-1 last year.
Well, every single game was a possession game.
Except for like the Bucs, which you beat 48-10.
Well, no, I mean the losses.
Oh, okay.
The losses were all possession games. There were plenty of games that were not possession games for the Bears. But those games that they lost, I think a lot of it came down to they lost because of stupid things that happened to them.
You beat yourselves rather than the other team beating you.
Exactly. And it's just, it's a shame in that case. Not that you want, you always want to win 16-0, but not that you want to expect that, if we don't get 16-0, it's a disappointment. But there were definitely disappointing moments to that. The Bears had a great season. The defense was really great. The offense is learning still, but it showed a lot of flashes. Really, the things I say you want to look for not too much of a regression out of the defense, just because there's got to be some regression because you got a new defensive coordinator. You want to see Trubisky take a step forward. You want to see personally want to see the play calling get a little bit more consistent, is the way I'll say it. Matt Nagy did an awesome job, but I just want to see a little bit more consistency out of it. And I think people understand what I mean by that. And then hopefully just the kicker. Like, hopefully the kicker's good, and the special teams in general is good.
So the last thing I'll throw at you is you had mentioned throughout this podcast that you think the Bears' schedule is the toughest.
Well, I have trouble deciding between the Vikings and the Bears, but I think the Bears edge it out a little bit.
Before I have you answer, this is what I think, and this is why I would say the Bears' schedule is the toughest, is because there's two stretches to me that are so close to being combined into one big stretch. Basically since the bye. Like, after the bye, you have New Orleans, the Chargers, the Eagles, then Detroit. Take the Detroit games as you may. At Rams. Then, okay, Giants, who, yet again, Giants beat you last year, and the Lions, who shouldn't be taken lightly, and then the rest of your schedule. Thursday against Dallas, Green Bay, Kansas City, then into Minnesota. Yes, that Minnesota game, well, yeah, no, it's at Minnesota again, just like it was last year. Yep. And I know people will say, but Ricky, we beat Minnesota last year. That was last year. This year's totally different. I'll say the same thing when it comes to the Vikings schedule. But that is a stretch that, depending on how the Lions games and the Giants games go, that is a brutal end of the schedule.
Well, the last 3 divisional games are all on the road.
Yeah, basically. Where it's like before the bye, yeah, you're playing in London, but you're playing the Raiders, which, yeah, we don't know what to expect from their additions.
Bears typically do well in London.
But you're playing the Raiders in London. Washington, what do we expect with Dwayne Haskins as their quarterback?
And it's an early one. He's still figuring things out.
Exactly. Same thing with Denver, where you're seeing Vic Fangio, but that defense maybe hasn't set into that Vic Fangio defense yet. Joe Flacco might not be completely set into the offense yet, like he would later on. Like, the 2 toughest games are your divisional games, but at least in that first, 5 weeks, you get the Vikings and Packers at home. It's everything after the bye that I'm like, oh, this is going to be a really long stretch that could turn into just a slugfest and a fight each and every week to try to get a win for the Bears.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for sure. And you know, with it coming to this, of course, we have any given Sunday, the Rams could have a huge fall off after losing the Super Bowl in humiliating
anyone could
fashion.
get injured too.
Yep, exactly. I mean, speaking of injuries, they are going to play the Eagles. Carson Wentz needs to prove that he can be out there for a whole season. So there are things that are going to happen. Patrick Mahomes can sit there and go, guys, that was fun, right? Now I'm only going to throw for 2,000 yards.
And at least you don't have a Monday night into a Thursday night.
That's
like you did
wonderful.
last year.
Beautiful. That was 3 games that were in within 2 weeks time or something. It was ridiculous. It's a tough schedule, but when you're a 12-4 team, when you're first in the NFC North, third team in the NFC, you're gonna get a tough schedule. It's just gonna happen, unfortunately. So you know, the Bears beat good teams last year. They just need to do it again.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to look. Last year it was because yet again you're playing Detroit on the Thanksgiving game, but at least this time you have a full week off where it's not Sunday into Thursday, then back into Sunday.
So I'm not going to be surprised that the Bears are not a 12-4 team. I actually will be surprised that the Bears are a 12-4 team. 9-7 is not what you want, obviously, but with this hard of a schedule, if the Bears are competing for a wild card spot, it's not the most unlikely thing.
I'll put it this way. You're, as a Bear fan, and I want this percentage to be Bear fan biased. I don't care if it's Bear fan biased. Percentage that you guys repeat and win the division this year.
Well, if I'm going to be Bears fan biased, it's 100%.
Okay, realistically, Bear fan biased.
I say like 60.
Okay.
I say it's like 60% they win it again, only because I do believe that of these 2 teams that underperformed last year, the Packers and the Vikings, one of them is going to be better.
Packers are the wild card to me because if they're healthy, completely different team. And if Aaron Rodgers is completely healthy, completely different team.
And the hard thing is for Chicago is they got to deal with a new unfortunate disadvantage is cannabis is getting legalized.
Yeah.
So now we don't have to worry about that until January, but that does tend to maybe lead to some suspensions of players.
It's like I was talking,
at least until the next CBA.
it's like I was talking to my mom where, because she's like at her company, she was like, well, it's going to be interesting because obviously like they get drug tested and stuff. And it's like, just because it's legal, you still can't do it at the company. And it's the same thing for the NFL where it's like, yes, it might be legal where you live, but
The NFL doesn't care.
the NFL doesn't care. You're still an employee of that.
At least until the next CBA. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how much that's involved into it because we all know. Is it the Chris Long came out and talked about it?
I think it was Chris Long,
Related to Kyle Long, I believe, of the Bears, so we'll bring it in that way. But Bear fans, let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section about your team. Is it going to be Super Bowl, Super Bears? Are they going to repeat as the division champs? We're going to be closing the podcast off talking about them next year when we get to 2019. Want to thank you guys for sticking along with us. Make sure to check out patreon.com/Most Podcast. Help support us. Make sure we can get our new studio and you can join our Discord, get the MVP podcast early. You can also join podcasts and talk about whatever you would like to talk about. Also, make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us get into the ears of more people, helps more people listen to our podcast. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on podcast services around the world, I want to thank you guys. And as always, have a good day, everybody.